I've talked a bit about things from an Extropian perspective, but let's look into what Extropia actually is and why it's such an awesome place to live. What is Extropia? In a word, freedom. Extropia is an anarchist tendency or tendencies. We'll talk about that later, headquartered in an asteroid in the main belt, with a population of around 10 million. But unlike our anarchist comrades in the scum swarms, we Extropians find freedom in the free market. As the old saying goes, the freer the markets, the freer the people, and our markets and people are the most free in the solar system. We have no government, no laws, and virtually no taxes or regulations. Our position in the main belt allows us to do great business with the entire solar system, which I'll get into later in the video. But for now, all you need to know is that we Extropians live like scum, but make bank like hypercorps. All types live on Extropia. Transhumans, both bio and synth, uplifts, AGIs, even some Jovian bioconservative refugees, and factors on occasion. Legal discrimination of the sort you'd find in the inner system is impossible without a government, and so all stay here relatively harmoniously. Extropia doesn't have politics as is normally understood, since it has no government. Most denizens are libertarians/anarcho-capitalists who are in the majority. Extropia is largely built along their ideological lines. Unfortunately, quite a few of them hold some personal biases against uplifts and AGIs. However, their own biases, without legal backing, remain just that, and our uplift and AGI kin are free to stay and profit here with the rest of us. There are the mutualists, closer to anarcho-communists, who through their cooperative banks form a vital link between the rest of Extropia and the other anarchist movements. The utilitarians and isolationists form kind of a left and right factions among us, with the utilitarians being neutrals who slightly favor the anarchists and the isolationists being neutrals who slightly favor the inner system. Well, they want to leave the autonomist alliance, which I see as the same thing. And then there's the most misunderstood, but best faction, also my faction, the objectivists. We follow Ayn Rand's philosophy that rationality and selfishness are the best ways to live a full life. Some of us, unfortunately, have a well-deserved reputation for scamming and backstabbing, but most of us recognize that on Extropia, reputation is worth its weight in credits, and so don't go out of our way to be evil. However, we are known to play hardball in negotiations and aren't shy to go after what we want. Many of my fellows are ideologically aligned with the hypercorps and would see Extropia lean more heavily towards the inner system. Personally, though I am an objectivist, I find the utilitarians, isolationists, and objectivists to be all wrong on foreign policy and prefer the status quo. But what is the status quo? Extropian foreign policy could best be summed up as do business with everyone, oppose anyone who threatens us, although without a government this is not an absolute. Ever since the battles of Locus, Extropia has thrown its lot in with the Autonomous Alliance, a group of anarchist and allied polities that stand against hostile powers, usually understood to be the planetary consortium that tried to invade Locus in the first place. Despite that alignment, however, Extropian business entities are extremely active in the PC and all across the solar system, doing business with virtually anyone and everyone with 2 credits or rep points to rub together. This is the status quo I alluded to earlier, and what a profitable status quo it is. Let the Titanians pay for fleet defenses while we make bank. Our position in the main belt, in between the hyper-capitalist inner system and anarchic and collectivist outer system, allows us to be a natural trade hub, a blessing we take full advantage of. Our many factions, working under free market harmony, are able to do a brisk business with all sides, and just as importantly, enable a system-wide economy. Without credit reputation exchangers such as myself. For example, inter-system trade between the credit-using inner system and the reputational outer system could break down. And as we all know, without trade, all that's left is war. There is a saying on Extropia, No gods, no masters, but the smart contract comes close. Meaning, in our free market anarchy, everything is for sale. And with everything for sale, including your very freedom, it behooves you to read the terms and conditions, or tax, of the sale you're making. A newbie to Extropia can end up in a long-term indentured servitude contract out of failure to read the tax. The first thing anyone should do on Extropia is to sign up for a decent legal service to help you navigate the swarm of contracts you'll need to sign in order to thrive here. This sounds scary, but it's actually liberating, so long as one gets into the Extropian mindset. Remember, the freer the markets, the freer the people. Vicious competition among goods and service providers keeps prices low and quality high here on Extropia. A disregard for intellectual property, whether our own or the hypercorps, adds to that mix. The lack of taxes and regulations makes it very easy to start and run a business. Forming your own hypercorp here is much easier and less life-threatening than in the PC. Outside of business, which I could talk about all day, personal life is just as free as our economic lives are. As is the case in most anarchist zones, personal activities are rarely circumscribed. Anything short of blowing up the station is largely permitted. Uplifts and especially AGIs have much freer lives here than they would in most places in the solar system. Due to our trade hub status, we receive media, food, and other cultural artifacts from across the system. One would struggle to be bored here. After some morning grooming and a quick break fast, I hop on the mesh to catch up with the credit and reputational markets, or cred reps. As a cred rep exchanger, I have to keep on top of such things virtually all the time. This involves not just keeping up with their basic values, but also a huge amount of news stories from across the system. This is incredibly taxing, but luckily my Muse and Neuro implants reduce some of the cognitive load. While doing this, I also meet with clients, usually virtually, sometimes in person if I believe that the personal touch will add a few points to my bottom line. My clients range from scum to Jovians, from PC hypercores to titanium socialites. I rarely turn anyone away, though I don't do business with groups like 9 Lives. See, the Extropians do have standards. My business generally entails taking rep or credits from my clients and offering a different kind of rep or credit in return, minus my fee. Often I'll take clients out to lunch on a non-business meeting, partly to curry favor and build a bond, but mostly because I like people and food. Today, I took out a client to the Noodle, where we both tried out some of the Pandoran alien mushrooms for the first time. Delicious. And the client signed a long-term contract right then and there. As what passes for an evening hits Extropia, I hand over the basic business operations to my Muse, setting instructions to alert me if certain triggers are hit in the market, which, for business reasons, I can't share here. So long as those triggers aren't met, the evenings are for myself. I have 2 mottos here on Extropia: the freer the markets, the freer the people, and work hard, play hard. Tonight I'll go over to one of the raves that are always happening on the station, and we'll party until morning, or until my Muse interrupts me. Whichever comes first. And before heading home, I'll stop over at the VAT, Extropia Center for Body Modification, Enhancement, and Wrist Sleeving. There are mods here that would be illegal in other habitats, for good prices at that. Here I'll do some shopping for more cognitive enhancements, so that I can keep up with the other cred reps in our ultra-competitive market. I have contacts here that are more than willing to give me first crack at any experimental cog mods, and I make sure to visit them regularly, before their products have time to hit the shelves. I've fried a few morphs this way, but the risk is worth the shot at getting a 5% cog improvement. And besides, that's what insurance is for anyway. After that, sleep for a few hours before the day begins anew. My life may not be the most exciting in the solar system, but it's entirely mine, along with my body and my profits. Here in Extropia, I'm completely free.